In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve one-step equations. But before we begin, we need to go ahead and clarify a few things. So first of all, what does it mean to solve an equation? To solve is to find a solution. So that's what it means to solve. Well, what is a solution? So basically what we're doing is looking for a value for the variable that makes an equation true. So we're looking for a value for the variable that makes an equation true. So here's an example of a simple equation. X plus 3 equals 5. Okay? So this is telling me on this side, x plus 3 is the same thing as 5. There's only one number we can put in for x to make this statement true. And you're smart, you already know what it is. X has to be 2. 2 is the only number we can plug in and get 2 plus 3 equals 5. That's the only number that'll make this true. Okay, so 2 is the solution for the equation. So what we're going to be focusing on is how do you find the solution. We're going to use the properties that you learned about. Those give us permission to move things around in an equation in order to find the solution. All right, let's start with our first example. And you can put these in the boxes on your page. B plus 6 equals 10. We already know what it is, but let's go through the formalities of it. All right, so in order to solve an equation or to solve for the variable, we have to get the variable alone. That's the goal. Right now, B is not alone. B is on the same side as 6, so B is not alone. So what do we need to do? We need to get rid of 6. Let's move 6 so that B can be alone. The question is, how do you move stuff around? Well, I see that we're adding 6. It's plus 6. So in order to move something, you have to do the opposite. So instead of adding 6, I'm going to subtract 6. And I'm going to subtract 6 on both sides. When I subtract, 6 minus 6 is 0. Okay? And we get B equals 10 minus 6 is 4. What properties did we use here? Well, right here, this is the additive inverse. I added a positive 6 to a negative 6 and got 0. So we use that property. We also used right here the subtraction property of equality, which says we can subtract the same thing from both sides of the equation without messing it up, basically. All right, let's do another example. Let's do this one. X minus 3 equals negative 2. Well, our goal is to get x alone, but right now x has this 3 with it, this negative 3 with it. So we need to get rid of the minus 3. Since it's a minus 3, the way to get rid of it is to do the opposite. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0, so that goes away. We're left with x all alone. That was our goal. Negative 2 plus 3. Negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1, so x equals 1. All right, here comes another one. T minus 8 equals negative 13. Looks similar to the last one. I need t alone, but t is not alone because it is negative 8 or it is minus 8. So instead of, so to get rid of it, we need to add 8 on both sides. T equals negative 5. Alright, so those were using addition and subtraction. Here's one more for you. X plus 2 equals negative 8. We need to get rid of the positive 2 because that's over here with the x. So we're going to use the subtraction property of equality. We'll subtract 2 on both sides. 2 minus 2 is 0. So x equals, and on this side we get negative 10. So we were using the addition and subtraction. You saw that to solve those. Here comes some multiplication and division. 3x equals negative 9. All right. My goal is to get x alone, but right now 3 is with x. When they're next to each other, this tells me that this is 3 times x. So I know this is multiplication. Well, in order to get rid of the 3, I need to do the opposite. So instead of multiplying, I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. I'm using the division property of equality. On this side, 3 over 3 cancels. Why? Because 3 over 3 is just what? That's just 1. So this becomes x, or 1x, equals negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. X equals negative 3. Alright, let's make this interesting. What about this one? X over 2 equals negative 4. Okay, I want x alone. We want x to be on this side by itself, but this 2 is in the way. And it's x divided by 2, so in order to get rid of 2, I need to multiply by 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 1. Let's get in the habit of when we multiply, let's go ahead and put it over 1. So on this side, I'm also going to multiply by 2 over 1. You have to remember, whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side, or none of this matters. All right, let's go ahead and simplify this. Remember, when we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across. So over here, 2 times x is 2x. 1 times 2 is 2. And on this side, negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And we just have the 1 at the bottom. Well, what's 2 over 2? 2 over 2 is 1. So we do have x alone. X equals negative 8. Here's another property we just used. This here is called the reciprocal property. We took the 2 and instead of putting it at the bottom, we flipped it to the top. That's what reciprocal does. So whenever you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you always get 1. That's a property. What else did we use? We multiplied by the same thing on both sides, right? We multiplied by 2 over 1 on both sides. So we also use the multiplication property of equality. Alright, I think let's check this one out. 2/3 x equals negative 1. Okay. So here it looks like a division and multiplication, right? Because we have 2/3 times x. So let's just think of it as a multiplication. 2/3 times x. Well, we're going to use the reciprocal property that we used in the last problem. And we're going to flip that 2/3 and multiply by 3 over 2. I'm using that property because watch what happens. 3 times 2 at the top is 6. 2 times 3 at the bottom is 6. Bring the x down. Equals negative 3, because negative 1 times 3 is 3, over 2. What happens here? 6 over 6 becomes 1. So we get x equals negative 3 over 2. Not bad. And let's do one more. Negative 0.25x equals 0. Well, this, even though it's a decimal, it's still multiplication. It's multiplying by x. So we're going to divide by that number to get the x alone. X equals 0. I lied. Here's one more. I think I forgot to do this one. 1/8 x equals negative 2. So how do we get rid of 1 over 8? Let's multiply it by 8 over 1, our reciprocal property. But remember, you have to multiply by 8 over 1 on the other side as well. So what happens? 8 times 1 is 8, over 1 times 8 is 8, times x equals negative 16 over 1. 8 over 8 is 1, so that goes away, and x equals negative 16. All right, those are your examples for solving one-step equations.